The tension between Tony Yayo and Jim Jones did not come out of nowhere. It built up slowly, layer by layer, over years of pride, loyalty, and old wounds that never fully healed. When Jim Jones snapped during his appearance on Memphis Bleek's podcast, it was not just a random outburst, it was personal. The moment Tony Yayo's name came up, the mood in the room shifted. You could see it on Jim's face. His body language changed, his voice got sharper. That was not for show, that was real emotion coming out. This whole situation started with comments Tony Yayo made about Jay-Z and how he treats the people around him. Yayo spoke openly about loyalty and success. He suggested that real leaders make sure their team wins with them. He compared Jay-Z's relationship with Memphis Bleek to how 50 Cent treats his crew. Yayo said that when 50 wins, his team wins too. He pointed out tours, money, and public support. Then he questioned why Bleek does not seem to shine the same way next to Jay-Z. Those words hit deep. Memphis Bleek has been loyal to Jay-Z since the early days of Rockefeller Records. He has stood beside him through success, drama, and change. For many fans, Bleek represents loyalty. So when Yayo suggested that Bleek was not being taken care of properly, it sounded like disrespect. Even if Yayo did not mean it as an insult, that is how it landed. Jim Jones felt that disrespect strongly. Jim has always stood on pride and independence. He built his name through the Diplomats, also known as Dipset. That movement was about Harlem pride, self-made energy, and standing tall without waiting for handouts. So when Yayo started comparing crews and talking about who feeds who, Jim saw it as weak behavior. To him, men should not measure loyalty by money or favors. During the podcast, Jim made it clear that he feeds himself and his team. He said nobody has to take care of him. He spoke with confidence and anger mixed together. He was not just defending Jay-Z or Memphis Bleek, he was defending the idea that grown men stand on their own 2 feet. In his mind, Yayo was turning loyalty into a competition. But this story goes deeper than one podcast clip. The roots go back to the early 2000s. Back when G-Unit and Dipset were both at their peak, tension between their camps was real. Mixtapes had shots thrown back and forth, subtle lines in songs carried real meaning. It was not just music, it was pride, it was territory, it was who ran New York. Tony Yayo has always been known for speaking his mind. He does not hold back. If he feels something, he says it. That same energy is what led him to speak on Jay-Z and Memphis Bleek. On one podcast, he talked about how 50 Cent supports him. He spoke about tours he did on his own. He mentioned how 50 brings him on stage and keeps him active. Then he compared that to Jay-Z not bringing Bleek out during certain shows. Even if Yayo tried to explain it calmly, the comparison itself caused tension. Jim Jones saw that as disrespect to Bleek's legacy. Bleek has his own career, his own respect in the culture. For someone to suggest he is not shining felt like an attack. Jim jumped in not because he has beef with Bleek, but because he felt the culture was being twisted. He said arguing over who takes better care of their crew is corny. In his view, real men do not brag about being fed by another man. The tension got even worse when Yayo brought up Stack Bundles during another interview. Stack Bundles was close to Jim Jones. He was signed, mentored, and pushed as the next big star. His life ended too soon, and that loss still hurts people connected to him. When Yayo suggested that Jim left Stack in the hood, that crossed a line. That was not just rap talk, that was personal pain. Jim has always said he tried to help Stack. He gave him chances, money, and exposure. But sometimes people stay connected to the streets no matter what opportunities they get. It is not simple. When Yayo questioned that history, Jim felt like his character was being attacked. That is why his reaction was so strong. On the podcast, Jim did not hold back. He took shots at Yayo's career, saying he has always been in 50 Cent's shadow. He suggested that Yayo never built anything on his own. That comment cut deep because everyone knows 50 Cent is the leader of G-Unit. Being called a sidekick is not something any artist wants to hear. Memphis Bleek tried to keep things calm, but the energy was too strong. The moment Yayo's name came up, it was like old memories came rushing back. Years of tension from the G-Unit and Dipset era were still there under the surface. The podcast simply brought them back to light. Yayo responded in a smart way. Instead of yelling back in an interview, he posted a picture of Max B online. That move spoke loudly. Max B and Jim Jones have a long history. They were once close, but things fell apart in a painful way. By posting that image, Yayo reminded everyone of that old wound. It was not loud, but it was powerful. Fans immediately picked sides. Some said Jim was right to defend himself and his crew. Others said Yayo was only speaking facts about loyalty and leadership. Social media turned it into a battle. Old interviews resurfaced, old mixtape clips came back into rotation. It felt like the early 2000s again. What makes this situation interesting is that both men believe they are right. Yayo believes that leaders should lift their team in visible ways. He points to 50 Cent as an example. He sees public support, tours, and shared success as proof of loyalty. Jim believes that every man must build his own foundation. He sees comparing handouts as weak energy. At its core, this is not just about money, it is about respect. In hip-hop, respect means everything. If someone questions your grind, your loyalty, or your independence, that feels like an attack on your whole life story. Jim's message was clear. He said he built his brand brick by brick. He does not wait for anyone to feed him. He stands on his own. That pride is part of Harlem culture. That is how he sees manhood. Yayo's message was also clear. He said real loyalty means your people win with you. He believes in visible support. He believes in showing the world that your crew is strong together. The debate sparked larger conversations in the culture. What does loyalty really mean? Is it about money? Is it about presence? Is it about silent support behind the scenes? There is no single answer. Memphis Bleek handled the situation with calm energy. He made it clear he respects both sides, but will not let anyone question his loyalty. He has been by Jay-Z's side since the beginning. That bond is solid in his eyes. Meanwhile, Jim and Yayo continue to stand firm. Neither one has fully backed down. The tension may cool down for a while, but history shows that pride like this does not disappear easily. This moment reminded fans that old rivalries never truly fade. They just stay quiet until something brings them back. One comment, one comparison, one name mentioned at the wrong time. Hip-hop has always been built on strong voices and strong opinions. That is what keeps it alive, but it also means emotions can run high. Right now, the culture is watching closely. Will there be a diss track? Will there be another interview? Or will both men move on and let the moment fade? No matter what happens next, this situation showed that the old guard still carries fire. These are veterans who built their names during a time when words had weight, when pride meant everything. In the end, this is about more than a podcast clip. It is about legacy. It is about how men see themselves and their journey. It is about loyalty, independence, and respect. And as long as pride remains strong on both sides, the story between Tony Yayo and Jim Jones is never fully closed. As the dust started to settle, the clash became even more clear. This was not just two rappers trading words. This was two different mindsets colliding in public. Tony Yayo represents one side of loyalty, and Jim Jones represents another. Neither side sees themselves as wrong. That is why this situation feels so heavy. After Jim's strong reaction on Memphis Bleek's podcast, fans began replaying every second of the video. They looked at his tone, they watched his facial expressions, they noticed how quickly his energy changed when Yayo's name was mentioned. It was like something personal got touched. That kind of reaction does not come from nowhere. It comes from history. To understand why Jim reacted the way he did, you have to look at the culture he came from. Dipset was built on independence. The Diplomats were loud, proud, and self-made in their image. They did not wait for approval. They created their own style, their own sound, their own movement. Jim has always carried that pride with him. So when Yayo spoke about men being taken care of by other men, it sounded like the opposite of everything Jim stands for. But from Yayo's point of view, he was not talking about handouts. He was talking about unity. He was talking about making sure your team shines with you. He used 50 Cent as an example because 50 often brings his crew on tour, on stage, and into business deals. Yayo sees that as strength. He sees that as leadership. The tension also reflects old New York pride. Back in the early 2000s, G-Unit and Dipset were not just music groups. They were movements. They had fan bases that felt like sports teams. When they threw shots at each other on mixtapes, fans took it seriously. Even if the beef cooled down over time, the memories stayed alive. That energy never fully disappeared. When Jim called Yayo out and suggested he had been riding 50's wave his whole career, that was a direct hit. In hip-hop, being called a sidekick is one of the worst insults. It questions your independence. It questions your strength. Yayo has always been loyal to 50 Cent, but loyalty does not mean weakness in his eyes, so that comment likely hit him hard. Yayo's response was calm but sharp. Posting the image of Max B was not random. That history between Max B and Jim Jones is painful and complicated. By bringing that name back into the spotlight, Yayo showed he understands where Jim's sensitive spots are. It was not loud, it was not dramatic, but it was powerful. Fans quickly divided into sides. Some said Jim was defending respect. Others said Yayo was speaking uncomfortable truths. Social media made the debate even louder. Old clips from interviews were shared again. People brought up past G-Unit and Dipset battles. It felt like a time machine back to the mixtape era. But something important stands out in all of this. Neither man is talking about music. They're talking about legacy. They're talking about how they want to be remembered. Jim wants to be seen as self-made, strong, and independent. Yayo wants to be seen as loyal, supported, and part of a powerful unit. Both identities matter deeply to them. Memphis Bleek handled the situation with calm energy. He did not add fuel to the fire. He kept his tone steady. That shows maturity. He has been in the game long enough to know how quickly words can turn into bigger problems. His loyalty to Jay-Z has never been in question in his own mind, so he did not feel the need to overreact. This moment also shows how strong pride still is in hip-hop culture. Pride can build careers, pride can protect reputations, but pride can also spark conflict. When someone feels disrespected, they react. Jim felt disrespected. Yayo likely feels misunderstood. Another layer to this situation is age and growth. These are not young artists trying to make a name for themselves. These are veterans. They have seen success, loss, fame, and change. So when they speak now, it carries weight. Their words reflect decades of experience. The internet plays a big role too. In the early 2000s, beef stayed mostly in music and interviews. Now, one podcast clip spreads everywhere within hours. Memes are created instantly. Fans pick sides quickly. That speed can make tension grow faster than it should. Some fans hope this turns into music. A diss track would bring excitement. Others hope it cools down before it goes too far. At the end of the day, both men have families, businesses, and reputations to protect. There is also a lesson in this moment about communication. Yayo may not have meant to disrespect Bleek directly. Jim may not have meant to attack Yayo's manhood, but tone and pride turned a debate into a battle. That happens often when emotions lead instead of calm conversation. Still, this clash reminded everyone why hip-hop is powerful. It is honest, it is emotional, it is raw. These are real men speaking from real feelings. Even when it gets messy, it reflects truth in some form. As things stand now, the tension remains in the air. It may cool off quietly, or one more comment could bring it back to life. History shows that neither Jim Jones nor Tony Yayo stays silent for long when pride is involved. The culture is watching, the fans are debating, and the story is not fully finished yet. As the back and forth continued, the bigger picture started to show itself. This situation was never only about one comment or one podcast clip. It became about identity. Tony Yayo sees himself as proof of loyalty done right. Jim Jones sees himself as proof of independence done right. When those two ideas clash, sparks fly. After the viral moment on Memphis Bleek's platform, blogs and hip-hop pages kept replaying Jim's strongest lines. The quote about not waiting for anyone to take care of himself became a headline everywhere. That statement was simple but powerful. It summed up his entire stance in one sentence. He does not want to be seen as someone under another man's umbrella. He wants to be known as a boss who built his own path. At the same time, people revisited what Yayo originally said. When he talked about how 50 Cent supports him, he was not whispering, he was proud. He spoke about tours, money, and being brought on stage. He made it clear that he feels valued in his camp. In his eyes, that is strength. He believes a strong leader makes sure the whole team shines together. This is where the debate splits the culture. Some fans believe a leader should create space for the team to grow beside him. Others believe each person must build their own lane without depending too much on one person. Neither side is fully wrong, they just see success in different ways. The old history between G-Unit and Dipset makes everything heavier. Back when the Diplomats and G-Unit were both dominating the streets and the radio, every small comment mattered. There were diss records, interviews filled with shots, and a feeling that both sides were fighting for New York's crown. Even though years have passed, that pride never truly fades. It stays in the background, waiting. When Yayo posted the image of Max B, it reminded everyone that old wounds are still sensitive. Max B and Jim Jones once worked closely. Their fallout was painful and public. Bringing that name back into the mix was like pressing on a bruise that never fully healed. Yayo did not need a long speech. The image alone carried meaning. Jim, however, stayed firm in his tone. He did not soften his stance. He continued to present himself as self-made and strong. He made it clear he does not answer to anyone. That energy connects deeply with his supporters. Harlem pride is a big part of his identity. Being seen as dependent would go against everything he has built. Meanwhile, Memphis Bleek remained steady. His loyalty to Jay-Z has always been clear. He did not jump into the mud. He did not throw extra shots. That calm response may have kept things from getting even worse. Sometimes silence speaks louder than anger. Another interesting layer is how both men are protecting their legacies. At this stage in their careers, it is not just about hits or charts, it's about how they will be remembered. Jim wants his story to be about hustle and independence. Yayo wants his story to include loyalty and shared success. When someone challenges that story, it feels personal. Fans are still watching closely. Some expect music to come from this tension. A diss track would bring energy back to that old era feeling. Others think both men may step back and let the moment pass. Time often cools down pride, but not always. Social media continues to amplify every move. One post, one comment, one emoji can restart the whole conversation. That is the power and danger of this digital age. Back in the day, artists had time to cool off before responding. Now everything happens instantly. What makes this moment important is not just the argument itself, but what it reveals about hip-hop culture. Respect still matters, loyalty still matters, pride still matters. Even after decades in the game, these values remain strong. At the core, this is a clash of philosophies. Yayo believes success should be shared openly. Jim believes success must be owned individually. Both ideas exist in the industry. Both have built strong careers. The question now is what happens next. Will there be another public exchange? Will someone sit down for a direct conversation? Or will both sides quietly move forward without adding fuel to the fire? One thing is certain. Neither Tony Yayo nor Jim Jones is known for staying silent when pride is involved. They are veterans from an era where words carried weight. They understand the power of statements. They also understand the cost of disrespect. For now, the culture waits. Fans debate in comment sections. Old interviews continue to resurface. The tension hangs in the air, not fully resolved. And as history has shown many times before, in hip-hop, unfinished business always has a way of coming back around.